Yes, there he is, finally. Joe Pasevich, Control Room, Wednesday. What is today? April the 3rd, 2025. And I am here with the esteemed and whatever adjective you want to put in, okay? Amy Troup, all right? There are too many. I can't get through them all.
Is this April Fool's? Because I thought it was April 2nd.
Today's April the 3rd. Oh, no, it's April 2nd. I'm sorry.
It was April Fool's, right?
Yesterday was April Fool's Day. That's right. Yeah. Yesterday was April Fool's.
Yeah.
Oh, I got mixed up. You're right. Well, we're not going to start the show over just for that.
No.
It is April the 2nd, right. 2025. It's a Wednesday. A really nippy spring, but clear, dry spring day today. Very nice outside. But, man, we are loaded with stuff to talk about. I cannot.
Yeah.
We need like 2 hours or 3 hours for this show, but we're not going to get it. So if you're watching this live right now on cable, unfortunately, since we got a little bit of a late start, you will see us cut off in about 45 to 48 minutes, okay? But you can always get my show on YouTube. Just type in Control Room MCM, okay? And if you're on Rumble, you can type in my handle, which is US Baltoslav. Can you remember that? US BALTOSLAV, because I am a Baltic Slav American, okay? And you will see my Control Room shows. And also on X. I'm on X also under Joe Pasevich. So you can get us on all those. Now, breaking news, we have to tell you this right away. Here are 3 sheets. 1, 2, and 3. That represents a conceptual plan for a 3-level development in Brant Rock. See that concept planning diagram? 1, it's called The Village at Brant Rock. You may have noticed on your town meeting warrant, here's your town meeting warrant. Remember, town meeting is Monday, April 28th at 7 p.m. at the Marshfield High School. It's either in the gym or the auditorium. We're not sure which one it is. But on that town warrant for town meeting coming up on April 28th, there is going to be an article to change the zoning laws to allow for parking. Right now, if you build anything in Brant Rock, you have to make sure that the parking for any vehicles is a minimum of 1.25 vehicles per living unit, and you have to elevate the parking area so you don't get cars stuck in the floodwaters. So the person that owns this piece of property on the west side of the Esplanade is submitting a zoning change. And that zoning change would allow for fewer number of cars per unit, and taking away the requirement that all parking be out of the floodplain. Okay, so this is not good stuff. But what we heard was a rumor that that same owner wanted to develop the land to hold 30 single-bedroom apartments. Well, guess what we found out? We found out that there is a plan for not for 30, which is bad enough, which is impactful enough, but for here, a 3-level, 87-unit apartment development. Okay, that's the breaking news. That's what you're not being told.
Who's the owner?
It's a person who owns right now one of the big restaurants down there. It's a Drossopoulos family. So there's town meeting, April 28th. This creates some issues for me, I know, and for a lot of people that are now finding out about this. 87 units.
Isn't that within 200 feet of the water?
This coastal wetlands abut these areas right behind them, immediately adjacent behind this development project, okay? I see somebody moving a chair over there. We have a guest coming in? Who's the guest? We have a mystery guest? Oh, Kevin, have a seat, Kevin. Hopefully we'll get you. I didn't know you'd be coming over, but hang on, okay?
Hello.
So we have somebody who's got a lot of expertise in traffic and emergency services career, and if we have a chance, we'll bring him on. But right now, we got to get through some other things. Listen, just stay there. Town meeting again is coming up now. One thing there was a big meeting of the advisory board and the select board last night. Okay, and one of the articles that's really got a history to it and that we're going to be dealing with on the town meeting warrant on April 28th is solar panels for the dog park in Marshfield, okay? The rationale that they're giving is that dog parks should contain shady areas. So what do you do when you're looking for a shady area or you want shade around your development or your house or something like that? What's the tried and true thing that you look for shade? A tree, typically.
Right.
So I'm wondering, why aren't we talking about planting trees at the dog park? A lot cheaper, all right? A lot more environmentally friendly, right? No, they want to build puts big steel beams in the ground and erect enormous carports and put solar panels on top of the carports. And I asked the question, what will they look like? And I was told, like the ones at the police station. So not only are dog parks a problem because there are a lot of pathogens that dogs can share with each other. And what kills pathogens? Sunshine, okay? No, they want to build solid, opaque solar panel carports. But the carports won't be carports because they can't put them where you put your cars when you go to the dog park. They're going to put them over where the dogs play. So, hello? Does this make sense to anybody? Not to me. Now, as you know, this has got a little history. Why? Because years ago, back in 2019, an article came up to sell or to engage in a lease with to create a power purchase agreement with a winner in a competitive bid selection process to create a large-scale ground-mounted solar voltaic installation. So we voted to authorize the selectmen to go ahead and enter into an agreement to build solar panels on the landfill on Clay Pit Road, all right? It also was, there was a provision in here, let's see, where is it? Let's see, associated equipment to be located. Well, basically, that was all we voted on, was for solar panels on the landfill. And there was something in the article, authorized the Board of Selectmen to enter a long-term agreement, but it also always contained the catch-all phrase, as most town meeting articles do contain, that says, and authorize the selectmen to do whatever else they have to do to make it happen. Well, our town administrator took it upon himself to then go sign multiple agreements or contracts for solar panel installations at other locations in town, which was a big surprise to us, and we think a gross violation of the law. We didn't authorize anybody in town to go sign solar panel contracts for panels on schools and other town buildings and other locations, okay? So they were trying to make it into one big juicy bundle for whoever this solar panel provider, constructor, and lessor would be, or lease person would be. So we caught them on that. And here's what happened at the 2019 town meeting when this was being discussed. I think we have a clip on that. I thought it was 2019. For the power purchase agreement, right?
Mr. Lynch, I just asked the town administrator and the facilities manager, there's an existing agreement with the solar company to install solar on these roofs. The solar company has expended a significant amount of money already to study what needs to be done to modify things and make this appropriate to do this. There's a financial consequence to the town in the event that we do not fulfill our obligations and appropriate the money to put this on the roof.
Wow.
So based upon what town meeting authorized years before, they were signing agreements for solar panels on other locations, which, and a lot of us, in my humble opinion, the opinion of other people smarter than me, was illegal. But now here's your town council. So the people at town meeting were not having anything of it, because they didn't want to see solar panels being put on school roofs, because we had a lot of questions that were unanswered, unresolved, over how the solar panels were going to affect this integrity of the roofs and the maintenance of the roofs of the different schools. But here we were being told by your town council, but if we don't vote for it, we're gonna have a penalty levied against us. We're gonna be in trouble. We could get sued or something like that. That's what they did to try to pressure you to approve a mixture of projects, which was roofing projects and solar panel projects on schools. Now, the roofing projects was another issue because it was a $3.5 million contract that did not go out to bid, that we also had to swallow as a part of this whole package. And what happened? What happened when the issue of the roofing contracts and the solar panels came up? Is that the auditorium hearing in June? Is that the one?
The original agreement was for the Clay Pit Road solar panels project.
That is correct, at 1.1 million worth of
And
revenue.
it did not include schools, carports, dog park, police station, or any other buildings in town, correct?
That's correct.
So how is that legal? We just discovered that the procurement process with regards to the school roofs was apparently done incorrectly, and you put out a press release saying, nope, we've got to go back and get a new bids on all the roofing projects. So how is it that a company bidding on one project, the Clay Pit Road project, now gets to do all these schools and carports because in the town meeting article, and I know the answer, because the town meeting article that we voted on specified clearly we were voting on a Clay Pit Road solar installation. And it did say that we were authorizing amendments to be made. Any reasonable person would assume you were talking about amendments to the Clay Pit Road project documentation, which you then interpreted to mean that you could go and write amendments, which then added all these other projects, Amendment 1 and Amendment 2. Now, for you to
Just for
say
clarification,
that an
Mr.
amendment means adding dozens and dozens, I mean, all kinds of projects all over town when we only voted on the Clay Pit Road project, that's a real stretch. And that will be challenged, I assure you. Any judge will throw that PPA agreement out because you did what you call an amendment was a vast expansion beyond the scope of the article and beyond the voters' authorization. That's illegal. I'm guaranteeing you it's illegal.
Well, first of all, I didn't draft the amendments. The amendments were drafted by lawyers, and they were reviewed by town council.
Tell that to the judge is all I have to say.
So there you go.
Wow.
You see, what happened was they signed an agreement to build the solar panel project. Then there was an attempt to push through a $3.5 million contract for re-roofing the schools, which were then going to be re-roofed to then basically accommodate solar panels. So we found that the re-roofing project was illegal. They didn't follow procurement procedures. And then they tried to expand the solar contracts across the town, which was also illegal in our view, okay? And no judge has ruled on it, okay? We have to usually give that disclaimer. And so they got called out. And what happens is the town administrator goes, oh, well, it wasn't me. It's not my fault. I didn't do it. Oh, sure, but I would venture that your name is signed on every one of those documents, Mr. Town Administrator, Mr. Maresco. And where was the select board in all this? Aren't they supposed to be overseeing things? Aren't they responsible? Doesn't the buck stops with them? Not on the current select board. That's why it has to change. Do you understand? For years, it's been an arrangement with the select board and the town administrator. One hand washes the other. Oh, you're wonderful, Mr. Town. Mike, you're wonderful. Mike, oh, the select board, you guys are fantastic. Oh, you're wonderful. Oh, I love you. I love you. One hand washes the other. Nobody taking responsibility, but somebody's making out, all right? So that's the problem that we have right now. So now it comes down to the dog park solar project. Like I said, if you want shade, plant trees, okay? And so we go to the advisory board meeting the other night. We're talking about the solar panel project, and here's a clip from that.
Mr. Maresco, you said that any expenses would be borne by the provider of these, the PV and PV services. I'm assuming you have some sort of a sense, or the select board has some sort of a sense after proposing this as to exactly what the net financial benefit on an annual basis looks like?
That is correct. If the Next Grid will give us a proposal on what that is. They did give us a proposal a couple of years ago, and it's around the 20,000, but I don't want to commit to an exact number. I have them rerun the number. That's going to be dependent on what's offered by Eversource, which is our provider in this area, what type of grants, what the cost will be to them. But they bear the cost of building the structure. We don't build the structure. We will derive revenue from the structure if it's approved. If town meeting approves and authorizes the select board to do the lease, that's the piece of it in order to do it.
In the 20,000, is that a per month, per year?
That would be per year.
20,000 per year to cover half the dog park?
As far as the bid process, are there multiple entities that bid for these type projects? Because you mentioned one a couple times.
So we went out to bid a long time ago. It's hard to remember. In 2018, we went out to bid. Next Grid wasn't the bidder. Next Grid was in partners with a company that was the partnered with the company that had the original bid, Mary O'Donnell. I can't think of the name of her company at the moment. She then sold out during the process. Where the first project that was approved, and Sean Patterson and I just signed off on the final paperwork from 2019, is to put photovoltaics on the Cap landfill. And that will generate about $1 million a year of revenue for the town for the next 20 years. If this is approved by town meeting, this will be a second project, much smaller in scale, of course.
So,
Oh, sorry. Other than NextGrid, is there anyone else who could bid on this? Or is it part of like a package deal?
It was part of a package. A whole bunch of people bid at that time. Amoresco, Citizens Energy. There were like 7 companies that bid at that time.
and when did you say this was? You said it was 2018
I
or
want to
2000?
say it was 2018, 2019, somewhere. It was pretty far back.
So since that was pretty far back and it was almost 6 years ago, would it, to me, it begs the question of, has market conditions changed where we should expect that other entrants into the market or others would be interested on bidding on such a project? Would you agree?
Oh, possibly.
Okay, but I mean, so to make sure I'm clear, we're going off of information here. The assumption is that we'll take information compiled during a procurement process almost 6 years ago to move forward with that particular company. I guess I would, yeah, that's my question. Okay, thank you.
And this is a type project a procurement officer would oversee?
That is correct. For all of our departments.
Why wouldn't we, sorry, I'm going to just beat this a little bit more. Why wouldn't we go back and put it back out to a procurement process before moving forward here?
We can.
Mr. Galvin? We will. Okay, so the assumptions that we're making right now are based upon an old procurement, but in order to move forward, we'll have to go through a new procurement to select a new provider.
It depends on whether there was capacity on what the original bid was, but more likely than not, this will have to be rebid. That's why the language is there in accordance with applicable law.
When you say capacity on the original bid, can you clarify?
Blah, blah, blah.
I don't have all the details here, so you can't,
Why
I
not?
need
You
the
should be
original
prepared for
agreement
the
to see it,
meeting.
but there was a certain capacity that this company was gonna supply, and I'm not sure they supplied that full capacity. So,
If they haven't supplied the full capacity, does that mean they have first right of refusal?
no,
Okay, so we could still bid it out.
I think we should.
We can, we will, we should bid it out. So we're not ready to go ahead with this dog park solar project, you know, which was a tag along to something done in 2019 for which they got an estimate of $20,000 benefit. But that is that $20,000, are they going to give us a portion of the electricity sales, or are they going to just lease it for $20,000? And is that a good deal for the town? And is it a good deal for the dogs? I don't think so. What do you think of all this, Amy?
So much solar. Solar was labeled in classes given to real estate agents in 2013 as hazardous waste. So with so many solar projects going on and not getting the SRACs, there's so many different pieces of the puzzle. But my main concern would be that if you keep putting solar everywhere and you know they're hazardous waste, what's going to happen in 20 years? When those panels are now null and void and all the money is gone, is the money that you might have saved going to be in the addition problem, because we have to do the whole program. So you get a cost to put it up, and then you get a savings, and then what does that equal in the end? Like when you have to get rid of hazardous waste.
Right.
So there's a lot missing here. I wouldn't think that in 2018, I thought he said, the same numbers would be applying today in 2025.
No way, no way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to whoever was on the board, do not say sorry to your town administrator for asking a question. You are designed to ask questions, and they should have the answers there.
Right, and that's a hallmark of the Board of Selectmen in general for years now, except until Eric Kelly got on board. Then Eric Kelly starts asking questions, and he gets talked down to,
Yep.
like he's a rude child.
Yeah.
The chairman
yeah.
fiddler is like, well, have you had enough? You're going to keep us here all night? There's a game on. You know, that's the kind of treatment he
Yeah.
gets.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
he's trying to ask questions, and he's getting all kinds of grief for asking questions. And not only that, but they're keeping him out of the loop when it comes to preparation for the meetings.
I'm very aware of
So
that.
it always comes down to the outlier like Eric Kelly, or to us residents and citizens, to get in on the meeting. And here's another clip from the meeting, I think last night, where the town council, there was a question about how we are going to fund the South Shore Vocational Technical School, both the expansion project for the new building, and number two, for the students from Marshfield that will be attending there, okay? And Pam Keith, one of the best researchers among the citizen ad hoc truth seekers, okay, she schools them on how these budget items are supposed to be presented to the voters of Marshfield. It's unbelievable.
I understand what Mr. Maresco just said, but that would imply that the vote that took place on the South Shore Tech School implied that whatever costs result from that the town inherently agrees to it, and town meeting actually has no ability to vote up or down that expense, because in fact they already have agreed to the expense. But I don't think that's the way it works. Can you help me understand that?
I'll have to read the specific on this. My understanding is when we approved the vote, we agreed to participate in the construction of the new school. I don't know whether our involvement has increased. I don't know any of those facts or figures. I assume as a part of the education budget, they've got a line item in their budget that we don't see that provides for the tuition expense that we have to pay over to them. I don't know whether that's able to cover all or a portion of next year. I wouldn't have no way of knowing. But we're on the hook for the tuition, no matter what that is, and I believe that have to come up with some way to pay for the assessment that we're going to get for the construction of the school when that's determined. My understanding is we'll either have to come up with a debt exclusion article or come up with some other way of paying for the debt expense. I don't know what the specifics are at this point.
Ms. Keith?
I can tell you how it works. I've seen it in years just from reading news or seeing you happen to see someone else's warrant article or whatever from time to time. First of all, you've got three things, basically law or regulations. We have the agreement, the South Shore Tech agreement, that says that you do your budget process according to state law. The state law is Chapter 71, Section 16B. It goes over regional school budgets. And then you also have CMR 60341.05. I can read you the language from the CMR because it is the most clear. I mean, they're all clear. But the adopted budget, which is adopted at the regional school committee level, and it says certified by their treasurer, shall be placed before each local appropriating authority for its consideration. That is done in every town at annual town meeting. Every town who is a member of the regional school district has a separate line where they have their, if it's Situate Public Schools, separate line, South Shore Tech Regional School. It's two different lines on the budget. They're two distinct school districts, our school budget should not be paying for the South Shore Tech. I mean, but whatever money, it's, you know, it's all the town's money, so I guess it doesn't totally matter. But there's a whole process where, I mean, it's not a long process, it's the regional school committee adopts the budget. It is certified, they use the word certified in their meeting when they voted, but the law says certified by the treasurer. It goes to our treasurer. It has to be done within so many days. All of this has to be done before the earliest town meeting of a member town, the annual town meeting. So again, it hinges on annual. So it comes to our treasurer. Everybody's allocations are known. Whitman, it was in the news, what Whitman's was, it's on their warrant. Situate's got it on their warrant. The school superintendent, Mr. Hickey, made some visits to different towns. I don't know that he did ours. So everybody knows their assessment. Ours is, like he said, somewhere between 7 and 800,000. We also owe them some money for stabilization, so that's probably included. And it's supposed to be on the warrant. It wasn't there last year. It's a low number that we're paying for this current school year. It's like 59,000, but it's going to be 700 and something. It's not supposed to wait till the fall.
Well, I guess that's what I'm getting to. I don't understand why it's not there. It sounds like there's still some process issues that are ongoing, but.
So hopefully this all gets resolved. But you see, it takes one of the residents, one of the concerned and learned and educated residents to kind of school these people. Because here's the part of the problem we have in town government. It's exclusive. They screen everybody. They vet everybody who wants to get in and serve on a board or a committee. We've been talking about this for decades on this show. This is how it works. And again, one hand washes the other. Town administrator gets in. He tells everybody how great the select board is. The select board gets lazy. They don't do their research and their work. Then someone like Eric Kelly gets in, starts asking questions, demanding materials, wanting some background. He gets left out of the loop, okay, doesn't get all the materials, and then he gets talked down to, okay, by a chair who treats him like she's some kind of bossy school mom or something like that. It's disgusting. But what's the end result? Then the select board tells everybody, oh, the administrator looks, oh, he's so smart. Oh, thank you, Michael. You're doing such a great job. Here's another $20,000 raise. Here's an allowance for your car. Here's this, here's that. She's up over $240,000 a year now. See how it works? You see why citizens have to step up and intervene and get involved? I say to every single person that wants change in this town, you should be volunteer. I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, liberal, whatever. Get on a town board or committee, okay? Let's have some diversity on the town boards and committees and people who care about the budget and about the well-being of the town. That's all I'm trying to say.
It's so important because the government is spending your money. So your tax dollars are representative of how much they're spending. And they're just using you as a blank checkbook right now because people don't show up. You need to guard your checkbook, which is also guarding your laws.
And protecting your own lifestyle and your own ability to eat and raise children and keep the lights on.
Yeah.
That's so basic. It's just so basic.
Yes.
You know, I don't want to tell you my life story in this town, but man, to me it's like...
happening to me in Halifax on the planning board. As a planning board member, I'm being blocked from going into the planning board office without feeling fear, and I'm an elected member.
Oh, well, we could spend the next 40 minutes telling about what happened to me as a housing commissioner at my housing authority meeting last night. Oh boy. You know, I'll just mention one thing. I did raise the issue of the fact that we should be having an election this year on the housing authority. It should be on the ballot. And I said, here's the problem. I've talked to the Secretary of State's office. I've talked to people in town. Mr. Chairman, we need to be having an election this year. And I had asked the chairman of the Housing Authority to make it a separate item on the agenda for our Housing Authority meeting last night, and he did not do it. But I was able to bring it up because it was part of the documentation that we were reviewing for the next year's plan for the Housing Authority operations. And inside that plan, it mentions the board members and their terms. So that way I was able to get it into the conversation. Only that way could I get it in. And when I pointed out all the problems and how the ballot is invalid, it's screwed up, we should be having an election, There should be somebody else getting elected to the board, or it should be open for someone else to get elected to the board. His response was, we're going to leave it at that. He said, yes, the town council and the town clerk are aware of this. I've spoken to them, but we're going to leave it at that. That's your housing authority, okay? What would happen if I wasn't on the board? I'm 1 out of 5. I'm outvoted almost all the time, 4-1, 4-1. Anyway.
Not in the best interest. I have a question for you on election, and you too, if you have any
Folks,
input.
we're joined. Kevin, introduce yourself.
Hi, excuse me. My name's Kevin O'Grady. I'm a former Massachusetts State police officer that I'm very proud to say I served.
Thank you.
I know lately you've hearing probably bad press about the Mass State Police. However, we had a great rapport with I had a great rapport with the public. And like I said, I did it for 30 years, and I'm well addressed on how to do the job the correct way.
Kevin is a very good observer. And one thing we were just talking about was changes coming to Brant Rock. And Kevin is very familiar with Brant Rock. He, like a lot of us, is just getting the news that there's going to be a proposal, a tentative proposal for 85 or 87 apartment units in a 3-level project construction on the west side of the Esplanade. There is going to be, Kevin just reminded me, there is going to be a meeting at the Venus this Saturday. You'll
Yes.
probably be there. I know a lot of other people are planning on going. But they're supposed to then talk about what the owners of that land want to do. So that's Saturday at the Venus, and I'm sorry I don't have the hours. If somebody knows, call me on the control room gold line right now so we can get that word out. Kevin, what's your impression of what's happening down there at Brant Rock, especially with the so-called bullnose design and the new layout of curbstones and everything? You get as a public safety officer, basically, and with decades of experience, what do you think of that layout? You form any impressions from that?
My opinion, I've driven it through many times lately. I think it was a bad choice. I don't know who they consulted with or who came up with the revision plan of building that particular area up. In public safety, I was in, like I said, 30 years, I'll repeat myself. And I've talked to a lot of Marshfield police officers. And they said, one particular officer, I won't mention names, said he's been on the job for 19, 20 years, and not once did he ever have to cover an accident down there. Never. There are other shifts that could have happened on other shifts. I understand that. In the last month or less, 2 vehicles have driven over the curbstones and got hung up and stuck that I know of. There may be more that weren't reported. Now they have Jersey barriers up, so when people are entering from the, I forgot the name of the street, but you're heading towards Haddad's, going by the Venus, and you're heading by the old Arthur and Pat's, and there's
Like you're heading down towards Island Street.
Towards Island Street.
Yeah, there it is right there. You can see the view. You're looking toward the southeast there, and you
Yeah.
see that rounded curve, new structure.
Correct. And as you're heading down there, they put the Jersey barriers onto the right side of that before you hit
We
that.
can see those. We can see those.
And then on the left side. Well, because people are hitting those curbstones and getting hung up. And that's my observation just in the last month and a half or so. The lighting down there, there's one light. The lighting is poor.
That's right. There is no street lighting.
There
right?
is one street light.
Yeah.
I went there again last night to make sure before I came on the show. Because someone would call up and say, oh, you're a liar. But anyways, there is a street light down there, but it's so dim, it doesn't light up the whole area. There should have been a center light in the middle of that strip.
That's a great idea.
You know, put a light up there. I mean, maybe you'll have the neighbors, people that live there complain that the lights keep them awake at night, but you're gonna keep safety first in mind.
Well, we can also see, by the way, on that drone shot is the area, that vacant lot there now on the left side of the Esplanade Main Drive. You see that
Yes.
area? That's where this big giant building project has got a conceptual design. One of the issues with that lot is that you see a lot of brush in the rear of it. That's all coastal wetlands. They're not going to be allowed to do anything there. all right? Because that also borders on the tidal marshes that lead over, there you go, you can see the tidal marshes that connect over to the Green River, which goes right down out to the Atlantic Ocean.
So where is this going to be?
Well, we just saw
Or-
it. We just saw it. Looks
Okay.
like the drone is headed home right now at this point.
Okay.
But it's going to be, if we get a chance to back this up, we can show it to you again. I don't know. Maybe we'll
I
get
would
a
love to
chance.
have like to show the people at home where this is going to go,
Right.
or where they want it to go, I should say.
Yeah. No, it's right now it's the lower left-hand corner. It's that big white snow-covered lot, partially snow and ice-covered lot. There's also there's a big white building sort of in the
In the middle of the
that's the
flood
Haddad's, the
zone?
old Haddad's restaurant.
Okay.
The large white building to the left of that, now in the center part of your screen, is the Venus restaurant.
Yeah.
From that Venus restaurant all the way further down, into the distance is where this project is
So
planned
towards
for.
the marina.
Yes, towards the
But
tower. You see
look
the
at how-
tower in the background in the middle of the screen there? That's the old submarine watchtower.
Okay.
Okay? So
So-
now you see a white building in the middle of the screen. You see it?
Yep.
Anyway, it's going on that stretch of road.
So my question to whoever the engineer was or whoever designed this plan, was public safety ever involved at all? That's the unfortunate thing on our job. They never consulted with the state police when they built the barracks, or they were doing this or doing that. It's a very important thing to consult us to find out what is good for our needs. Are they appeasing this one person that wants to build these, how many, 86 units?
Well, 85 or
85
87, we're
units.
not sure which one. What's
Are
the
they
difference?
appeasing this person, or are they appeasing the public? The
Well,
public
this-
is the thing that's concerning me.
I don't even think this has been reviewed by anybody yet because it's still in a conceptual stage. As far as the curbing and all that went into that, I guess they did talk to a safety officer and they did bring the largest fire truck that we have. And I saw a video of that fire. They brought it down to see if it could negotiate that curve and fit between the curbstones. And I saw it, but it looked like it was kind of moving through that drive kind of gingerly and slowly. You know what I'm saying? Of course, it'll take some practice to get used to it. And it's not taking anything away from the police and the fire in the town right now. But yeah, there was a political push behind doing this curbstone project. But then again, the residents didn't get what they expected or what they wanted, which was actual safe walking pedestrian curbs up and down on both sides of the Esplanade.
How much did that cost, by the way? Do you know?
Something in the order of $3 million or something like
To
that.
do that?
Yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah.
What is even the point? Oh my
The
God.
point is to spend money, I guess.
Well, another thing, I just heard this the other night. A tractor trailer had to make a delivery at the jetty. I don't know if it was a beer company or what type, probably was a liquor company. They drove up the wrong way to get to the jetty because they couldn't negotiate that curve.
Wow.
They couldn't go down through the pier. They couldn't go down to the pier, turn left in front of the point, and then take a left onto Island Street.
That's why we have Kevin. I didn't even think of that.
They couldn't take a left onto Island Street
Yeah.
because when they got down there, they couldn't negotiate the little half roundabout. So the trailer truck driver, in his infinite wisdom, shouldn't have done it anyways, but he did,
Hey, people got to
drove
drink.
the wrong way on that street in front of the Esplanade, in front of the jetty, to drop off his delivery. Now, is that public safety concern? Absolutely. Is that stupid that they built that half-assed roundabout? Excuse my French. Yes. They should have consulted. They may have consulted, like Joe said, public safety. But did they talk to the police and the fire that drive through that all the time, every day and night, every single shift? They're not looking at it that way. They're looking at it to appease some person that decides he wants to build condos.
Again, I don't
That's
know.
my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to link
I'll back
in.
you up.
I don't know how they're going to link in the concerns here, but obviously, one of the problems that we're going to have here is parking. Now, they want to change the zoning. Again, town meeting, April 28th. They want to change the zoning so that for these 85 units, instead of take 85 and multiply it times 1.3 25, all right? You get 80, you got 120, 130 or so parking spaces would be required under current zoning if they build these. If they change the zoning, they won't have to provide 130 spaces. They'll only have to provide 85.
Well, they'll end up parking on the street.
That's right. Now you're going to clog up the street, which is going to complicate the issues with how people negotiate this, because obviously you know what happens when people start getting squeezed and finding parking
panic.
spaces. They start double parking and doing all kinds of crazy stuff and driving up onto curbs.
And it's mixed use too, so hold on, ready?
Well, here you go. That's right. That's part of the
Well,
plan.
now we go to a different kind of a parking thing. What about retail? So depending on
Guess what? There you go. That's why Amy's here. She's so smart. Look at part of the plan includes retail, shops,
more
and 2 restaurants.
That's more than 1.25 spots. I don't know exactly
I don't
what
even
your
know
parking
offhand.
bylaw is.
Right.
But,
The parking for restaurants and restaurants is based on the seating.
yeah,
Okay, you know that. You're planning, but what am I
seating
saying?
and employment. I mean,
Right,
each
right.
town might have different bylaws, so I can't speak to your exact bylaws on parking.
Right.
But right now, I'm seeing major issues with that. So this is on the opposite side of Haddad's and
On the same side of the
Same
street
side.
as Venus and Haddad's.
right in the marsh.
On the other side of the.
How many bedrooms are there now? Are there any houses
I see.
or?
There's a bedroom in the
important.
old fish shop, and I think there's
There is.
a couple of bedrooms above the ice cream store. So there's 3.
Okay, so
Plus,
that
there's
means
one on top of the old ice cream shop down close to the laundromat, and then there's 2, I think, on top of the laundromat. So 1, 2, 3, 6.
okay. So then
So
they would
6 to
only be
87.
allowed to have 6 bedrooms.
Well,
Do you know why?
They want to knock down those buildings.
I know, but hold on, that doesn't matter. Within 200 feet of a DEP of water,
Oh yeah,
you
well, it's close to
cannot add
wetlands.
bedrooms. It's like literally a law. Deed restrictions have happened in the town of Halifax and other towns too. That if, say, a cottage was built within 200 feet of the lake, not even necessarily a waterfront house, and it only had 1 bedroom, it'll be deed restricted never to have more than 1 bedroom ever again. So, and that you can't overstep the footprint within that 200-foot area. So this is like,
Well, it would have to go through conservation, and I think because it's called the Brant Rock Village Overlay District, it's going to be, the proposal will be heard by the planning board. Now,
Yes.
there are some residents that are now saying that what we need to do is we need to erase or repeal the Brant Rock Village Overlay District. So that would change, that would take away some of the allowances that were granted by an overlay district and make this possible.
that's getting confusing.
Invalid. It is getting confusing, isn't it? That's why you have people like us trying to dig into this kind of stuff.
Well, it should
And
be. It should
by
be
the way,
easy.
I have to mention this. The old fish store, the old fish market, is considered a historic building.
Oh my gosh.
So now we have to add the issue of how do we take the fish building, you know, where Hank used to work, and lift it up and move it somewhere. They're looking for any place in the United States to put that thing. Although the fish building, that has to be moved in order for this project to go ahead. So now you're going to change the character. Now, granted, Brant Rock needs work.
Yeah,
Okay, we
yeah.
need some improvements there. But right now, this is not the way to go. I could just leave
Well,
it at
there's
that.
so many things. So when this goes in front of the planning board, usually when you get a site plan put in front of the planning board, you have to have it go out to all the different boards.
Right,
So
right.
that you can come back with comments. So we should have had comments from fire and police and the town clerk. Well, the town clerk would send it out, but the assessors and
the neighbors.
zoning. Well, that's separate, but the same. But then they get notified and they come in as abutters. But and conservation shouldn't be able to disregard DEP. And this is a 3-level place. So do you know what that's going to do to the water table?
Well, how do you access it in an emergency? How do you get around it if your fire department has to get behind here?
Well, so it's a 20 foot road I see here, right?
Right, it's a
So
clear access.
it has to
drive
be
required.
one way.
But it's a windy road.
Yeah.
And it's got very kind of
Very
restricted,
sharp. Look at this one.
restricted access.
if they're having
Oh yeah,
problems,
there's a tight bend
Look
in
at
the
this bend.
access road.
do you think that this bend is a little bit harder to get around and you're in a fire vehicle after what you see?
Absolutely.
So would you think that that would be okay? I mean, look at this one. It's a right turn.
So you get these 90-degree bends in the driveway that goes around the building that would ostensibly be there to provide
And you-
emergency vehicle access. And I don't know what state police or other police think, but you know, if I was a police officer and I got a call to an 85-unit single-bedroom complex, I don't know. I wouldn't feel so I don't feel so comfortable going in it as a civilian, but I don't know what the police officers think. But I don't want to make any disparaging remarks, okay, that might be offensive to people that want to do these kinds of things. But it all comes down to money too, though, you know.
And this goes on town sewer, obviously, but this
Yes.
this is in the flood zone. I mean, I've
It's
seen this
coastal,
underwater more
coastal
than,
floodplain, coastal wetlands, right here,
yeah.
right behind
Oh,
it.
Now, the rumor I heard is, are they having underground garage parking?
God, no, they can't.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, no.
I couldn't
That would
find
have
that
to be
possible.
that would have to be a watertight structure with all kinds of pumps. No, and that's one thing. I don't see any parking provided on this. Where's the parking?
Well, that's what I'm looking
Between,
for.
the jetty's not going anywhere. The other restaurants around there, I don't know if I doubt if Haddad's is going anywhere.
Right.
And I don't know if the Venus is gonna stay open. If you drive down there on a Saturday, like if you go down to see music playing on a Saturday afternoon,
right.
that whole place is filled up.
Right.
And this isn't even with tenants.
And it's not even this full summertime yet either. Summertime,
Correct.
it's a magnitude greater.
Is this age restricted?
No. Not
So
that I
then
know.
you could possibly have 87 plus students come to your school. Do you think that?
Well, yeah, if you had usually a single bedroom apartment is not one person. I mean, you always have a roommate or a kid or something like that, yeah.
They're all one bedroom apartments?
Right now, that's what I'm hearing.
Are they
That's what I heard.
rentals?
Yes.
Oh, so they're all rentals.
That's
So
what I'm
this
hearing.
is exactly like MBTA 3A housing.
It's funny you mention that. That thought crossed my mind.
So that's the other way that they're doing these things is if your town didn't accept MBTA or even if they're pushing overlay districts at town
Right.
meetings.
Well, that's what happened in Middleborough, as
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Middleborough, they were being pushed on adopting MBTA zoning. So what the state said was, if you don't adopt it, how about you expand your overlay district, which is a 40R zone on the other side of town,
Yeah.
and build us hundreds and hundreds of apartments. So then the state goes, so we'll get the apartments we want, and you get to control it better. What? Hello, George Orwell. Come in, George. I'm channeling George Orwell.
Yeah,
all right?
Lenatra helped him with that decision.
Unbelievable. I mean, and some people, some of the leaders in Middleborough are saying, hey, this is a great victory for the citizens of Middleborough because we get to put hundreds and thousands of apartments in a place where we were going to put some apartments anyway, but still the impacts to the town and the town services is going to skyrocket.
That's correct.
So it's outrageous that people would fall for that. Are you under enough stress already? And the amount of time we have left, I'm sorry guys, I need to put a few minutes in on this. All right, we're gonna really switch gears, we're gonna dim the lights, and we're gonna turn on the lava lamp, all right, and light the incense, all right? Amy Troup is into well-being, all right? You're still like a private instructor, aren't you?
I am a private yoga instructor.
Private yoga instructor, and she's got friends in the business of wellness and taking
Yes.
care of yourself.
Yes.
And hopefully we're going to talk more about this subject in a future show.
Yes.
And look at Kevin, he's in the prime of his life, all right? He's about to, like he could step into a ring right now with George Foreman or somebody, all right?
I don't know about that,
You don't know about that? Oh, come on.
You're just
Jeez,
being
you look younger
modest.
than me. Anyway, so, but see, I've been just beat up by being involved in town government too much. So I want to mention something. All right, we're going to shift now. How much time do we have left anyway? Do you know anybody know how much time we have left to speak on this? We got about 10 minutes. Well, that might be enough. That's all. Inhale.
Well, you have to do some full breathing.
Full breathing. Let's
Now,
do full
now
breathing.
you're going into the yoga mode.
We're going to go into yoga mode, all right? So anyway, I just came across something, and I've been talking to people, and people are genuinely stressed, all right? Everybody
Yeah.
recognizes this,
Yeah.
okay? And there's a fellow named, a doctor named Gabor Mate. You might know his son, Aaron Mate, who does a lot of commentary. on various podcasts and on websites and stuff like that. Gabor Mate, you may have heard of him, wrote a book called The Myth of Normal. And here's a little bit of a review of what he wrote, of how the review of his book goes. Gabor Mate eloquently dissects how Western countries that pride themselves on their healthcare systems are actually seeing an upsurge in chronic illness and general ill health.
Wow.
Prescription drug usage, high blood pressure, mental illness, and so many other troubling issues are on the rise. Over 4 decades of clinical experience, Mate has come to recognize the prevailing understanding of normal as false, neglecting the roles that trauma and stress, I don't know what's more traumatic and stressful than being a trooper, really, right? And I don't know how you deal with it. Maybe you can give us the secret.
Well, I'm retired now. So.
Okay. And the
I
pressures
thought
of
it was housing authority.
housing authority, oh yeah. Being a gadfly, being a muckraker naysayer in the town of Marshfield. I mean, look, I'm losing my hair, I'm losing my teeth, I'm losing my mind. Anyway,
I can cure you.
would you please?
Yeah.
Thank you. Leave that in, okay? The trauma and stress and the pressures of modern day living exert on our bodies and on our minds at the expense of good health. For all our expertise and technological sophistication, Western medicine often fails to treat the whole person, ignoring how the toxicity of today's culture stresses the body, burdens the immune system, and undermines emotional balance.
Yeah.
This is all about what you're exposed to on a day-to-day basis. And I can't, obviously, we don't have time to go into all of this particulars
well, what
here.
you eat.
But it's what you eat, it's what you're exposed to. And Dr. Mate says that basically you're formed at an early age by inputs, okay, that you have around you. You may have had trauma, you may have had abandonment, you may have had poverty, you may have had a lot of wants, you may have been,
Behavioral modification.
that modifies you, and that's what makes you become what you are, which then gets expressed. And we've discovered that when people feel threatened and insecure, especially over an extended period of time, our bodies are programmed to turn on inflammatory genes. So there's an exact physiological response that's been documented. So I just wanted to mention that because I wanted to maybe open this up for some future discussion, that the stress that you're experiencing by watching the news, by hearing about like impending World War III, and by going to, and even on the local level, when you see your town officials are not being transparent and upfront and they're not doing their jobs, all right?
And then you see your tax bill.
And then you see, right, and then you see the real manifestation of that type of behavior or lack of accountability. It takes a toll on people, and I think people are feeling it. What do you think?
And then you have to drive
Definitely.
through, then after all the stress you're talking about, and I'm going to make a little joke of it, side joke,
It's all right.
is
Gotta laugh.
driving through the Esplanade and the stress you go through.
Right.
That.
It used to be the worst thing we saw on the Esplanade is people getting out of the bars late at night and then kind of like forgetting where they are and then like driving over the center strip of the Esplanade.
Oh my gosh.
That used to happen a lot. And actually, and then they would go down Ocean Street or down Plymouth Ave and there would be crashes and stuff like that. In fact, I one night, a car just like went off the road into the gully next to my house. It was just sitting in the swamp there. And I went out and I looked around. Somebody was in the car. They fled. They probably went home to have some coffee or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Then they had to bring a wrecker and just drag it out, you know? So this kind of stuff goes on all the time.
I'm sorry, I sidetracked a little.
No, but see, that's...
They probably called in a stolen car.
Right. But that brings in the subject of self-medication, okay?
Well,
and people do self-medicate
The
in
best
various
thing
ways.
to do is try not to eat processed foods
Yeah.
because what you take is every day is affecting your entire body. And to make sure that you're breathing, because most people don't breathe. They shallow breathe, so they just breathe in the top of their lungs, and really your lungs are all here. So if you fill them all up, then all your capillaries can fill and go through all your bloodstream and carry everything correctly. And you need to breathe. So if you're not breathing correctly or fully, then your body is in fear because it's afraid it's going to die.
And this
That's anxiety.
This is all induced by long-term, levels of stress that we're talking about,
Right.
and things that you're exposed to over a period of time. And then you have the kind of stress that someone in public service, emergency services and stuff like that's expressed, which must be like adrenaline creating potentially intense, brief encounters, that kind of thing.
Oh, definitely. I have high blood pressure
You do?
from the job.
From the job? It's one of the hazards of the job. It's a long-term hazard of the job.
It's under control, I mean, with the proper medication.
Right. But at the same time, the
I
objective
have
is
other thoughts on that.
Okay.
I think you could probably, I'm not a doctor, but I've seen people go off their high blood pressure medications by walking and taking the correct foods and waters, breathing, yoga. My mother did it.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, she was my first prime suspect. Or,
But come to
project.
town,
That's a better term.
yeah, she wasn't my suspect.
but come to town meetings, vote and participate, because that's part of trying to create a town and an environment that's easier for you to take. All right, we're trying to correct the problems that we have, and one thing is to take away the stress and the worry and the high taxes. Okay, we need to work towards that goal. This is about your self-interest. Your self-interest lies in you participating.
When is your town meeting?
It's April 28th, Monday.
Okay.
So it's 3 weeks from this past.
I have something to say that would really help with their stress. So let's just say that you all go to town meeting, like you did to go against the MBTA 3A housing.
Where we were with a lot of friends.
So if you go to town meeting and you're like, it's so long. It's like, all right, well, let's say your tax bill was going to go up $1,000, and because of that, the commercial spot down the street that sells your grocery stores was going to go up $1,000, like probably more, but I'm just trying to make a picture for you in your head. And then where you go to the gym's going up $1,000. So all of these little places are going to up their fees. Your apples are going to be more. Your meat's going to be more. Your rent's going to be more. Your mortgage is going to be more because your taxes went up. And then you're going to complain about it all year and you're going to work harder. So here's my suggestion. On April 28th, you go to town meeting and you stay the entire time, because if any of these things happen, you're going to be taking the paycheck for it. You're going to have more water to buy because there's going to be less water that's better to drink, and all of these other things. So make a suggestion. It is a part-time job to go to your town meeting, and you don't have to get up and talk. Just be there to vote. And yeah, it might be April 29th. So take those nights now, block them off on your calendar, and go, because then the rest of the year, you're going to be less stressed, and you're not going to be complaining about what happened at town meeting.
You're going to be with friends. You're going to be around a lot of positive energy. Okay, that means you don't have to sit with me. Okay, but you're going to be, but generally going to be around positive energy about people to care. And I'll tell you one thing: when you get done with town meeting, and even if you've had a chance to say something, I guarantee you're going to feel better.
I would agree.
I agree.
Take it from Amy, okay?
For sure.
Anyway, that's all I have to say. I wanted to squeeze that in, and I'm glad you listened. And we'll see you next week. Thanks again to Kevin and to Amy for being with me. We'll see you in a week.
Thank you for inviting me.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
April
Good night.
28th.
Hopefully no one got fooled on April Fool's Day.